I lost my job on a Tuesday morning, and by Sunday night, my husband stood up in front of his entire family, set his glass down, and told me I needed to leave our home so his sister could move in. And the worst part wasn't what he said. It was how normal everyone acted, like I had already been erased from the picture, like I was just a problem they had finally decided to fix. I remember sitting there at that long dining table, the same one I paid for, staring at my plate while his mother nodded in approval and his sister smiled like she had been waiting for this moment her whole life. And in that second, I realized I hadn't just lost my job, I had lost my place in my own marriage. If this story speaks to your heart, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if it truly resonates with you. And tell me where you're watching from and what time it is in your city. I read every single comment. My name is Sophia Bennett. I'm 33 years old. And this was the night my husband chose his family over me and thought I would quietly disappear. But what he didn't know was that this moment would be the beginning of something none of them saw coming. Let me take you back to where it all started, to a house just outside of Boston, 4 bedrooms, a narrow driveway, and a mortgage that had my name on it long before his ever did. Back when I believed building a life together meant something. Back when I thought loyalty worked both ways. Because the truth is, the story they told that night about why I had to leave wasn't the real story at all, and the decision he made at that table wasn't sudden. It had been building for months, in ways I didn't fully understand yet. There were conversations I wasn't part of, plans I wasn't meant to see, and one detail about that house, about the ownership, about who really held the power, that none of them knew, not even my husband, and that detail is what would change everything. When I first met Daniel, I thought I was marrying into a close family, the kind that showed up for each other. The kind that said things like, "We stick together no matter what," and at the beginning, it looked exactly like that. Sunday dinners every week, birthdays that turned into full-day events, his mother insisting I take leftovers home in containers that never quite matched, his sister Lily sitting at the center of everything like she belonged there, like everything somehow revolved around her, and at first, I did not question it. I thought it was just personality, just family dynamics that I would eventually understand. But over time, I started noticing the small things, the kind you can ignore at first until they start forming a pattern, like how Lily never paid for anything, not her rent, not her groceries, not even her phone bill, and every time she had a problem, Daniel would drop everything, cancel plans, move money around, make space for her without even asking me. And I would tell myself it was temporary, that families go through phases, that support does not have to be equal to be real. But then there were moments that stayed with me longer than they should have. Like the night I worked a 12-hour shift and came home to find Lily already in our living room, shoes off, television on, eating takeout I had paid for. And when I asked Daniel how long she was staying, he just said, "As long as she needs." Like it was obvious. Like it was not even a question worth asking. And I remember standing there, still in my work clothes, realizing that my opinion did not carry the same weight as his sister's needs, and it did not stop there. Birthdays where her gifts were always bigger. Conversations where her feelings were always prioritized. Decisions about our own home that somehow included her before they included me. And every time I tried to bring it up, Daniel would say the same thing. "She has always had it harder than you." And I never asked him to choose. I just wanted to feel like I belonged in my own life. But the truth is, I started adjusting myself instead, making room, staying quiet, picking my battles, convincing myself that stability mattered more than fairness, that love sometimes meant compromise, even when the compromise kept coming from only one side. And then something shifted, not all at once, but slowly, like a door closing in another room that you do not hear until it is already shut. It started the year before I lost my job, when Daniel began having conversations with his mother and Lily behind closed doors, lowering his voice when I walked in, stepping outside to take calls he used to take in front of me, and when I asked what was going on, he would smile, too quickly, and say, "Nothing you need to worry about." And I wanted to believe him. I really did. But there was a look in Lily's eyes the next time she came over, something calm, something certain, like she already knew how things were going to end. And I remember thinking, for the first time, that I might be the only person in that house who did not know what was coming next. The week I lost my job, I told Daniel the truth the same night. I sat at the edge of our bed and explained everything. The layoffs, the budget cuts, the fact that my position had been eliminated, and I remember choosing my words carefully because I did not want him to feel pressure. I just said, "I will figure it out. I just need a little time." And he nodded, calm, almost too calm, and said, "We will handle it." And for a moment, I believed him, but 2 days later, something felt off. His phone kept lighting up with messages, and every time I walked into the room, he turned it face down, not dramatically, just enough for me to notice. And I told myself I was overthinking. Until the afternoon, I left early for a job interview and forgot my folder at home. When I came back, I heard voices in the kitchen, Daniel, his mother, and Lily, speaking in low tones. And I stopped just outside the doorway when I heard my name. "She cannot contribute anymore," his mother said. Her voice sharp and certain. "We cannot carry dead weight." And there was a pause before Daniel answered, quieter, almost hesitant. "It is temporary." And Lily laughed softly. Temporary turns into permanent with people like her. And something inside me went still, completely still. I should have walked in, should have said something, but I did not. I stood there holding my breath, listening as my life was reduced to a problem they needed to solve. And then his mother said the sentence that changed everything. "You need to think long-term, Daniel. You have responsibilities, and she is not one of them." And I left without them knowing I had been there. I went to the interview, sat across from a hiring manager, answered questions I barely heard, because all I could think about was that conversation, that quiet decision already forming without me. That night, I tried to act normal. I cooked dinner, I asked him about his day, and he looked at me like nothing had happened. Like he had not just stood there while his family decided my place in his life. And then later, when he went to shower, his phone lit up again on the counter. And I do not know why I picked it up. Maybe I needed proof that I was not imagining it. Maybe I needed something solid to hold on to. And there it was, a message thread between him, his mother, and Lily, titled simply, "Plan." The most recent message from his mother read, "We need to move quickly before she finds something else." And Lily replied, "I already packed some of her things last time I was there," followed by a picture, my closet, half empty, my clothes folded into boxes I had never touched. And Daniel's response was just one line, "Sunday dinner works." And that was the moment everything collapsed. Not loudly, not all at once, but quietly, completely, like something inside me had been unplugged, because it was never about my job. It was never temporary. It was planned, discussed, agreed upon, and I was the only one who did not know, until it was already too late. That night, after I saw the messages, I did not confront him. I did not throw his phone or demand answers. I simply placed it back on the counter exactly where it had been and sat in the living room staring at the walls I had painted myself 2 summers ago, trying to understand how something so planned could feel so calm on the surface. And the next morning, I tried one last time to fix what I thought was still fixable. I made coffee the way he liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of cream. And I said, "We need to talk," but he did not even sit down. He just leaned against the counter and said, "There is nothing to talk about." Like the decision had already been finalized somewhere I was never invited to. I told him I could find another job, that I already had interviews lined up, that this was temporary, and he just nodded slowly and said, "That is not the point." And I asked him what the point was, and he looked at me for a long second before saying, "You are not stable right now, and I need stability." And I remember thinking how strange that sounded coming from someone who had never once carried the financial weight of that house, but I did not say it. I just asked him if we could at least give it time. A month, 2 months, anything. And he shook his head, not angry, not emotional, just certain, like he had practiced this, like he had already said it out loud before, just not to me. And after that conversation, I started trying in smaller ways, quieter ways. I sent him messages while he was at work, simple ones. We can figure this out. Please do not do this. I am still here. And hours would pass before he responded with one-word answers. Okay, we will see. I am busy. And then, eventually, nothing at all. I emailed him later that week, a long message explaining everything I was willing to do, the jobs I was applying for, the changes I could make, the ways we could adjust, and I never got a reply. I even wrote a letter, something I had not done since college. I left it on his nightstand, folded neatly, hoping maybe seeing it in my handwriting would remind him of who I was, of everything we had built. But the next morning, it was gone. And he never mentioned it, not once. And that silence was louder than anything he could have said, because it told me I was not being ignored by accident. I was being ignored on purpose, and the worst part was not even him. It was the way his family closed around him like a wall. Every call I made to his mother went unanswered. Every message I sent to Lily was left unread, like they had all agreed on the same version of me. The same story where I was the problem that needed to be removed, and there was nothing I could say that would change it, and for a while. I kept trying anyway. I kept reaching out, kept hoping there was still something left to save, until the night I saw my own boxes stacked by the front door. Labeled in Lily's handwriting, neat and organized, like she was preparing a room for herself, not packing away someone else's life, and that was the moment something shifted inside me, not anger, not even sadness, just clarity, quiet and steady. Because I finally understood that I was not losing a home, I was being removed from a place that had already decided I did not belong, and for the first time since all of this started, I stopped asking, I stopped explaining. I stopped trying to be understood, and I picked up my suitcase, not as someone being forced out, but as someone who was done asking to stay. The first night I left, I slept on a borrowed couch in a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like laundry detergent and takeout, and I remember staring at the ceiling thinking how quiet everything felt without having to prove my place to anyone, and the next morning, I woke up before sunrise, not because I had to, but because I did not know what else to do. So I opened my laptop and started applying for jobs again, one after another, even the ones I thought were out of my reach. Because at that point, I had nothing left to lose, and the days became simple, structured, almost mechanical. Wake up, apply, interview, repeat, and slowly, something started to shift. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily. I got a temporary position first, then a contract role, and eventually, a full-time offer in property management, a field I had never planned on entering but somehow understood instinctively, because I knew what it meant to hold something together, to maintain it, to protect its value, and I worked quietly, I stayed late. I learned everything I could. Leases, contracts, financial reports, the kind of details most people overlooked, but that held everything in place, and no one there knew my story. No one knew I had been the one paying a mortgage while being told I did not contribute, and I liked it that way. I liked being just another name on the schedule, just another person doing their job well, and over time, that name started to carry weight. Managers trusted me with more responsibility. Clients asked for me directly. And one afternoon, about 2 years in, my supervisor handed me a folder and said, "You should look at this property. It is a foreclosure, complicated situation, but I think you will understand it." And when I opened it, I saw the address, the same street, the same house, and for a moment, everything went still again. Just like it had that day in the kitchen. But this time, the feeling was different, calmer, clearer. I did not react. I just read through the documents carefully, the missed payments, the notices, the timeline that had been building quietly just like everything else in that house had. And I realized something they had never considered, something they had never bothered to check. And a few months later, I signed my name on a document that felt heavier than anything I had ever held before, not because of what it gave me, but because of what it confirmed. And when they handed me my updated badge at work, my name printed clearly above the title property manager. I clipped it onto my blazer and caught my reflection in the glass door. And for the first time in years, I saw someone who did not need to ask where she belonged. And that is what I carried with me the day I walked back up that driveway, the same one I had left with a suitcase. Except this time, I was not returning as someone asking to stay. I was returning as someone who already owned the decision waiting on the other side of that door. Life does not snap back into place after something like that. It settles slowly into something quieter, something clearer. And these days my mornings are simple. I wake up in an apartment that is mine alone, sunlight coming through the kitchen window, coffee brewing without anyone else's expectations attached to it, and there is a kind of peace in knowing that every bill paid, every decision made, every step forward belongs entirely to me. But the day I stood on that front porch again, holding a folder in my hand with my name printed on the documents, was not about revenge. It was about truth finally catching up to something that had been built on quiet assumptions. Daniel opened the door, and for a second he just stared. Like he could not place me in this version of reality. Like I did not fit into the story he had told himself. And behind him, I could see Lily sitting on the couch, the same couch I had chosen years ago, her things scattered where mine used to be. And his mother standing in the hallway, arms crossed, already prepared to defend something she did not yet understand. I did not raise my voice. I did not explain everything at once. I simply handed the papers to the lawyer beside me and said, "We are here regarding the property transfer." And there was a pause, a long one, the kind where people realize they have missed something important, something they should have paid attention to. And as the lawyer began explaining the foreclosure, the missed payments, the ownership change, I watched their faces shift, confusion first, then disbelief, and finally that quiet realization that none of this was a misunderstanding, that the house they had treated like theirs to control had already slipped out of their hands months ago. Daniel tried to speak, tried to ask how, tried to piece together a version of events that made sense to him, but I did not fill in the gaps for him. I let the silence do what it needed to do. Because sometimes the truth does not need to be argued. It just needs to be seen. And when he finally said my name, softer this time, like he was reaching for something that was already gone, I looked at him and said, "You made your decision a long time ago." Not angry, not bitter, just stating something that had already settled inside me. I gave them 30 days, not out of kindness, not out of cruelty, but because it was the right thing to do. And then I walked back down that driveway. The same one I had once left carrying everything I owned in a suitcase, except this time, I was not leaving anything behind, and now, when I think about everything that happened, I do not feel the need to rewrite it or soften it, because it taught me something I could not have learned any other way. That love without respect is not love. That silence can be a form of truth, and that the moment you stop asking for a place in someone else's life is the moment you begin building your own. If you are listening to this and something in your life feels uncertain, if you have ever been made to feel like you are too much or not enough at the same time, I want you to trust that quiet voice inside you that already knows what is right. Protect your time, protect your energy, protect your financial independence, because those are the things that give you choices when everything else falls apart. Healing does not come from proving someone wrong. It comes from no longer needing their approval to feel whole. And wherever you are right now, whatever you are carrying, I hope you remember that your value was never something they had the power to take from you. Thank you for staying with me through this story, for listening, for understanding, because sometimes just knowing someone else has been there makes the weight a little lighter. My name is Sophia Bennett. I am 33 years old, and the lesson I want to leave with you is simple. Never let someone else decide your place in your own life. And if this story stays with you, there are more stories waiting for you. Stories about strength, about truth, about finding your way back to yourself. Take your time, stay with the feeling, and I will see you in the next one.